All right, so you sent over a ton of articles this time.
Yeah.
It's really all over the place. We've got political stuff happening, new discoveries in science, even some like thought-provoking pieces on art and culture.
It's a good mix.
It is a really good mix. I'm excited to kind of dig into all this with you.
Yeah, me too. I think there are going to be some really interesting connections between all these seemingly unrelated events.
All right, well, let's start with some of the major developments in Indian politics. The India bloc.
Okay.
And for those who might not be super familiar, that's that coalition of opposition parties that are hoping to challenge the ruling BJP.
Right.
They're celebrating a pretty big win in Jharkhand right now. Hemant Soren just began his 4th term as chief minister, and some really big political players like Rahul Gandhi and Mamata Banerjee were there to show their support.
Yeah, this is a big deal for the India bloc,
Yeah.
especially with the general elections coming up. I mean, it shows that they can actually, beat the BJP.
Yeah.
And that could give them some serious momentum moving forward.
It's true, but, the BJP has its own set of challenges to deal with.
Oh, absolutely.
Particularly in Karnataka. There's some serious conflict brewing within the party there. Different factions are vying for control.
Yeah, that infighting could definitely hurt the BJP's chances in the upcoming elections.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if they can present a united front, while also dealing with these internal power struggles.
Yeah, and while we're on that topic of potential political challenges, the Lok Sabha extending the term of the Walk Amendment Bill Committee, that's raising some eyebrows.
Definitely.
Can you give me like a quick rundown on what that bill is all about? I'll admit I haven't been following it that closely.
Sure. So basically, it proposes changes to how walk properties are governed.
Okay.
And walk properties are basically charitable trusts that are managed by Muslims.
Gotcha.
Opponents of the bill are concerned that these amendments could infringe on religious rights and, potentially change how these properties are handled. The fact that they've extended the committee's term suggests there are some deep concerns that still need to be addressed.
Yeah, it's interesting how all this political maneuvering is happening against the backdrop of all these social welfare programs, especially the ones that are announced just before elections.
Right.
It makes you wonder, are these genuine efforts to help people, or are they just political tactics to win votes?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
Some people see these pre-election schemes as a form of voter manipulation, while others argue that they're legitimate attempts to address social inequalities.
Right.
It really highlights the complexities of democracy and how we need to carefully evaluate these programs regardless of, when they're implemented.
Okay, so we've talked about India's political landscape, but there are some major events unfolding globally as well. For instance, tensions are running high in Bangladesh right now. Protests have erupted over the arrest of a Hindu monk.
Yeah, this situation in Bangladesh is particularly concerning because it points to this larger issue of minority rights and safety. The protests are a reflection of these deep anxieties within the Hindu community, who are demanding greater protection and accountability from the government.
And while we're on the topic of political shifts, there's this fascinating global trend we need to discuss. Left-wing insurgencies transitioning into mainstream political parties. The articles mention Nepal and El Salvador as like prime examples.
Yeah, it's not just a trend. It's a pretty significant shift in how we think about political movements.
Right.
It suggests that the lines between traditional political ideologies are kind of blurring. These former insurgents are choosing to work within democratic systems to achieve their goals.
Yeah.
Which could lead to, more pragmatic governance.
Right.
But it also raises questions about whether they'll have to compromise on their original ideals.
It makes you wonder how this will impact the political landscape in these countries moving forward.
Absolutely. And speaking of global power dynamics, there's some intriguing news coming out of China. The government has launched an investigation into a prominent military figure, Miao Hua. This adds another layer to their ongoing anti-corruption campaign.
So do you think this investigation is a genuine attempt to root out corruption, or is there like a bigger political play at work here?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
The fact that they're targeting someone within the military, which is traditionally a powerful institution, it's definitely significant. It could be a power play to consolidate control, or it could signal a serious commitment to tackling corruption at the highest levels. It's definitely a situation worth keeping a close eye on.
Now let's shift gears a bit and explore some stories that highlight the human element amidst all these global events.
Okay.
One article that really resonated with me focused on the challenges women in rural India face,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to having their voices heard in journalism and public discourse.
It's a critical issue that often gets overlooked.
Yeah.
The article really shines a light on how deeply ingrained societal norms and patriarchal structures can silence women's voices and limit their participation in public life.
Right, their stories are rarely told.
Exactly.
Your perspectives are often ignored.
It makes you realize how much we lose when we don't create space for diverse voices and perspectives.
Absolutely. And speaking of perspectives, there's another fascinating article that delves into the complexities of copyright law
Oh, yeah.
through the lens of a dispute between two prominent Indian film figures, Dhanush and Nayanthara.
Right.
What makes this particular case so intriguing?
Well, it provides a real-world example of how copyright law can be incredibly nuanced,
Okay.
especially when you're dealing with artistic expression and biographical works.
Right.
This dispute raises questions about the balance between protecting the rights of creators and allowing for fair use, and the broader dissemination of creative content. It's a reminder that intellectual property rights can be a tricky thing to navigate.
So we've covered political turmoil, social justice issues, and even a bit of legal intrigue.
We have.
What other fascinating discoveries do we have in store?
Oh, we're just getting started. Next up, we'll explore some incredible advancements in science and technology, including a breakthrough in cancer research that could revolutionize treatment for millions.
Wow.
Get ready for some truly mind-blowing stuff. So are you ready to dive into some science?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, because this cancer research article is pretty amazing.
Yeah, this is the one about a new potential way to fight tumors using the body's own immune system.
That's the one scientists have discovered this type of white blood cell.
Okay.
They're called INCMs.
INCMs.
Yeah, and basically they can train your immune system to recognize and attack cancer cells.
So it's like giving your body's natural defenses like a super boost or something.
Exactly. It's like immunotherapy on steroids.
Wow. So is this something that could be available to patients soon?
Well, it's still early stages, but the potential is definitely there.
Okay.
This type of treatment, immunotherapy, it's shown a lot of promise in recent years.
Right.
Harnessing the power of the immune system could really revolutionize how we fight cancer.
It's amazing to think that our own bodies hold the key to fighting such a devastating disease.
It is pretty remarkable.
But speaking of fighting, it seems the U.S. is gearing up for a different kind of battle, one against reliance on imported critical minerals. They're turning to this thing called urban mining, which honestly sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does have a futuristic ring to it, doesn't it?
It does.
But it's actually a pretty clever approach.
Okay.
Urban mining involves recovering valuable materials from discarded electronics and other waste.
Oh, so like all those old phones and computers and appliances that end up in landfills?
Exactly. They're basically treasure troves of critical minerals,
Yeah.
like cobalt, lithium, all that stuff.
So instead of relying on other countries for these essential resources, the U.S. is trying to find them right here at home.
Exactly. It's a way to secure their supply chain and reduce their dependence on foreign imports.
Makes sense, especially for things like smartphone components and electric car batteries.
Exactly. It's like a modern-day gold rush.
I like that.
But instead of panning for gold, they're sifting through our discarded tech.
Yeah, that's what I call recycling with a purpose.
Right.
Okay, let's switch gears again and talk about how art is reflecting some of the anxieties and fears of our time.
Okay.
I was really struck by the article about how this year's horror films are using the genre to comment on women's rights and reproductive freedom.
It's fascinating how horror, a genre that, often explores like the dark side of humanity,
Right.
is being used to address these very real and timely issues.
Yeah.
These films are really tapping into deep-seated anxieties about bodily autonomy control and, the consequences of restricting reproductive rights.
I've always thought that horror movies could be more than just entertainment.
Oh, for sure.
And this really proves that point.
Yeah.
They can spark important conversations about issues that might otherwise be, brushed aside.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And on that note of sparking thought-provoking discussions, let's move on to some truly inspiring stories that caught my eye. This one really stood out to me. It's about a 90-year-old engineer from Thrissur, India, who just received his 17th patent.
Wow, talk about lifelong learning. What did he invent this time?
He developed a new type of gear system that's more efficient and durable than previous designs.
That's incredible. It's a testament to the power of curiosity and the fact that innovation has no age limit.
It really doesn't.
It's a fantastic reminder that we should never stop learning and exploring new ideas no matter how old we are.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, now for a story that's a bit more geopolitically focused, the China plus one strategy.
Okay.
You mentioned this earlier, and I have to admit, I'm still a bit fuzzy on what it means.
No problem. I'm happy to explain. So essentially, it refers to companies that are looking to diversify their manufacturing and supply chains beyond China.
Okay,
So instead of putting all their eggs in one basket, they're exploring other options.
gotcha.
And India, with its large workforce and growing economy, is becoming a prime candidate for this shift.
So India has a chance to become a major player on the global economic stage?
It definitely has the potential.
Yeah.
But it also faces some challenges. India needs to improve its infrastructure, streamline regulations,
Yeah.
and ensure a skilled workforce to attract and retain foreign investment.
So it's a long game,
It is.
but it could have a significant impact on India's economic future.
Absolutely. From global economics to intricate artistry, this deep dive is full of surprises.
Speaking of which, I was captivated by the article about the origins of Sazni embroidery in Kashmir.
Oh, yeah. This exquisite embroidery, known for its delicate floral patterns,
Yeah.
actually has roots that extend far beyond Kashmir.
Really?
It's believed that the technique originated in Central Asia
Wow.
and was brought to Kashmir centuries ago by these skilled artisans who shared their knowledge and craftsmanship.
So it's not just a beautiful art form, it's a testament to cultural exchange and the transmission of knowledge across borders.
Precisely. It highlights how interconnected the world has always been, even centuries ago.
That's really cool. And speaking of connections, there's a story about the Indian Air Force participating in a unique training program in Egypt.
Yes, this is the one where they're collaborating with air forces from Egypt, Jordan, and Greece.
Right.
It's not just about typical military exercises. It's about sharing best practices, improving communication, and fostering a deeper understanding between military leaders from different countries.
It seems like these types of partnerships are becoming increasingly important in a world facing such complex security challenges.
They are.
It's reassuring to see countries working together to build stronger relationships and enhance global security.
I agree.
Okay, now for something a little lighter, it's time for our sports spotlight. And we've got some exciting news from the world of chess. Young Indian Grandmaster Gukesh D has scored a major victory in the World Chess Championship.
This is huge.
Yeah.
He displayed such remarkable strategic thinking and mental stamina to defeat the defending champion Ding Liren in a crucial match. This victory not only marks a significant milestone in his career, but it also really underscores the growing prominence of young Indian talent in the world of chess.
Yeah, it's inspiring to see these young athletes like Gukesh excelling on the global stage.
Absolutely.
And speaking of stellar performances, we can't forget about cricketer Hardik Pandya's electrifying form in the Mushtaq Ali Trophy. He's been absolutely unstoppable.
His explosive batting and all-around skills have been instrumental in his team's success.
Yeah, he's consistently delivering these game-changing performances.
Right.
Racking up runs at an impressive pace and taking crucial wickets.
Definitely a player to watch in upcoming tournaments.
For sure. And on that note of unpredictability, we have to acknowledge a significant weather event that's developing. A depression is likely to make landfall in Tamil Nadu.
Yeah, this is a serious situation that could have a major impact on the region.
Right.
The system is expected to bring heavy rainfall to several districts in Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. Authorities are urging residents to take necessary precautions and stay informed about weather updates.
It's a reminder that even amidst all the political intrigue, social movements, and sporting victories, we can't forget about the power of nature.
Right.
And the need to be prepared for its unpredictable forces.
Oh, it really makes you think.
It does. And to round out this deep dive, it seems we're ending where we began, with power struggles and geopolitical maneuvering.
Yeah.
The situation between Israel and Hezbollah is escalating.
Right.
And that recent ceasefire seems to be crumbling.
It's a situation that's been, simmering for decades.
Yeah.
It just goes to show how fragile peace can be in that region.
It really does.
While the ceasefire did provide like a temporary pause in the fighting, it didn't really address those root causes of the conflict.
Right.
And, Hezbollah still possesses a significant arsenal.
Yeah.
So the threat of renewed violence is very real.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
Political shifts, scientific breakthroughs, artistic expressions.
Yeah.
Even ethical dilemmas. It's amazing how these seemingly disparate stories are all interconnected.
It is.
Reflecting these complexities of the world we live in.
It's like we've taken this whirlwind tour of the human experience.
Yeah.
The triumphs, the struggles, the innovations.
Right.
And those enduring questions that continue to shape our lives.
What strikes me is just how much is changing.
Yeah.
How rapidly the world is evolving.
It's a lot to take in.
It's both exciting and a bit daunting at the same time.
I think that's the perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
As you continue to explore these topics and encounter new ones, remember to look for the connections, those underlying patterns.
Okay.
Ask yourself how these events might shape the world of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And most importantly, consider what role you want to play in this ever-evolving narrative.
That's a great point. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
My pleasure. It's always a fascinating conversation.
Until next time.